What are the rules of rainwater harvesting in Oregon? Oregon is facing a water crisis. Communities across the state are increasingly experiencing difficulties accessing sufficient, clean, and affordable water. In the midst of drought and water scarcity, Oregon's rainwater may be an untapped resource for meeting community needs. But isn't rainwater harvesting against the law? No, but there are some rules and regulations. In this episode of Oregon Water Matters, we'll discuss Oregon's laws around using rain as a water supply. First, what is rainwater harvesting? Rainwater harvesting refers to the collection and storage of rainwater for on-site use. This means rainwater is used where it is collected. Rainwater harvesting is an old and widely used practice for meeting water needs, and it has numerous benefits. Rainwater harvesting can provide an alternative water supply for everyday uses like drinking, cooking, and bathing. This can help communities cope with water shortages and help reduce water bills. There are also numerous environmental benefits, such as reducing stress on other water sources like the rivers and streams that provide priceless support to fish and other wildlife. Plus, rainwater harvesting can help reduce risks from storms and other extreme weather events like droughts and floods. Now let's talk about the law. Because of all the benefits, rainwater harvesting is becoming more popular, and Oregon has adopted specific rules to allow communities to tap into the water supply in the sky. Here's what you need to know. In Oregon, water is a public resource. It belongs to the people. Most, not all, uses of water require a permit from the Oregon Water Resources Department. Is a permit required for rainwater harvesting? Sometimes. Let's dive deeper. Oregon considers the collection and use of rainwater a water use that typically requires a permit. This is because collected rainwater would otherwise flow downstream. A permit is not required when any quantity of rainwater is collected from an artificial impervious surface, such as a roof. A permit is required when rainwater is harvested in other ways. The installation of a rainwater harvesting or catchment system must also comply with the state building code, which sets the standards for constructing buildings and other structures. The state's building code authorizes a collection of rainwater from roofs or other above-ground collection surfaces for many indoor and outdoor uses, from washing clothes and flushing toilets to watering lawns. But there are specific requirements to follow. The plumbing code, a component of the building code, is the primary source of rules around rainwater harvesting systems. These rules are intended to protect public health and safety. So, what are the rules? The plumbing code includes requirements for permitting in the type, design, location, and maintenance of rainwater harvesting systems. Specific requirements vary depending on whether the system supplies potable water for drinking or non-potable water for other uses. For all rainwater harvesting systems, you should contact your city or county building department to confirm building code and local land use requirements. What are the requirements for non-potable rainwater catchment systems? Smaller rainwater catchment systems, where fixtures are only on the exterior of buildings, don't connect to plumbing or electrical, and are used for non-potable outdoor uses, typically do not require building permits or need to be professionally designed. Non-potable rainwater catchment systems for indoor uses will require a plumbing permit and must be professionally designed. Other permits, such as construction or electrical permits, may be required depending on the system components, location, and design. What about for potable rainwater harvesting systems? Rainwater catchment systems that provide drinking water have separate requirements in the statewide building code. To install a potable rainwater harvesting system on a single-family dwelling, building permits, including a plumbing permit, must be obtained. All potable systems must be professionally designed. What else does the plumbing code do to keep rainwater harvesting safe? For non-potable systems, the plumbing code requires the installation of equipment to prevent contaminants such as debris from entering the system. To prevent contamination, all rainwater harvesting systems must be kept separate from other water supplies. Additionally, non-potable systems must be labeled to indicate they do not supply drinking water. Rainwater harvesting systems that supply potable water for drinking cannot collect rainwater from driveways or parking lots, surface water runoff, or bodies of standing water. Homes using rainwater as a potable water supply are responsible for testing to ensure water is safe to drink. Additionally, non-potable systems must be labeled to indicate that they do not supply drinking water. We've talked about water use permits and the building code. Are there other things to keep in mind? Yes. Homeowners associations may have specific restrictions or standards for rainwater collection. Additionally, landlords may have rules around whether or how renters can use rainwater harvesting systems. Thanks for diving into the law of rainwater harvesting with us. Let's conclude by reviewing some key takeaways. Rainwater harvesting is a proven practice with many environmental, economic, and health benefits. In Oregon, rainwater collection systems are permitted for many indoor and outdoor uses, including as drinking water, but there are specific rules and requirements to follow. The collection of rainwater from an artificial impervious surface, such as a roof, does not require a water use permit. Rainwater catchment systems can be used for potable and non-potable uses, but different standards apply depending on the water use. Oregon's building code includes rules for the permitting, design, location, and maintenance of rainwater harvesting systems. Check with your local planning office for specific building code and land use requirements. Homeowners associations or landlords may have additional restrictions on or standards for rainwater collection. For more information, check out the rest of our series. And remember, Oregon water matters.